So once again, good evening. Welcome to South Philadelphia High School. Thank you. If you don't know who I am, I'm very comfortable. Actually, I'm a little more comfortable down here on the floor up front. But I am Otis Hackney. I am currently the principal here at South Philadelphia High School. So I'd like to welcome you all to our town hall meeting this evening at Southern. So tonight, Mayor-elect Jim Kenney, this gentleman right here to my left, and our transition committee are here to listen. And I am a big fan of listening. One of the things when I took over South Philly was I went on a listening tour and went to different stakeholders to find out what their key issues were, and that's where I started so that way we can begin to fix South Philadelphia High School. So we are here to listen to you this evening. We believe that community input is crucial, a crucial part of this transition process, and we want to hear your thoughts and how we can achieve our goal of moving every neighborhood in Philadelphia forward. There are members of the transition committee here, and they're going to introduce themselves at this time.
Hi, Dr. Branville Bard, co-chair of Public Safety Committee.
Hi, my name is Ann Gemmel. I'm serving as the co-chair of the Education Transition Team.
Good evening, Natalie Lefkovich from the Human Services Committee.
Dwight Evans, co-chair of the Transition Committee.
I'm Jim.
Pedro Rodriguez, co-chair of the Committee on City Services.
Good evening, Marwan Creedy, Immigration Transition Committee, co-chair.
Hi, Andy Toy, Commerce and Economic Development.
Hi, I'm Ellen Madelman Kaplan. I'm the incoming Chief Integrity Officer and a member of the Public Safety Committee.
Lou Rodriguez, I'm on the Infrastructure and Transportation Committee.
And can the members of the transition committee that are in our audience please stand up and introduce yourself?
Hi, how are you? I'm Hillary Leonardopoulos with the Philadelphia Federation of Teachers on the Education Committee.
Jim Muller, City Services.
Kim Renee Patterson on the Education Committee.
David Mazer, I'm the chair of the Environment and Sustainability Transition Team.
Christian Dunbar, Multicultural Committee, Immigrant Affairs.
Natalie Caton, St. Louis, part of the Education Committee.
Numa St. Louis, Human Services.
Hi, I'm Beth Devine, and I'm a co-chair of the Community, Culture, and Recreation Committee.
I'm Fran Newberg, and I'm a member of the Education Committee.
Good evening, I'm Matthew Thorogan, co-chair of Transportation and Infrastructure Committee.
Hello, I'm Anita Davidson, and I'm part of the Committee for Transportation and Infrastructure.
Allison Sprague, Public Safety.
I'm Mike Marsico, Administrative Services Committee.
Good evening, I'm Dorothy Johnson Spite, Founder and Executive Director of Mothers in Charge. I'm on Public Safety Committee.
Buenas noches, good evening. My name is Will Gonzalez. I'm Executive Director of SEBA, and I'm part of the Immigration Transition Committee.
I'm Andrea Jamola. I'm on the Education Committee.
I'm Rich Gitlin on the Immigration Committee.
Erica Almiron, Public Safety Committee.
It is my great honor to introduce our Mayor-elect, Jim Kenney.
Thank you very much and good evening. And I would like you to recognize the fact that as all those individuals stood up, it was extremely diverse representation of all the people who live in the city. And I am so honored that they've agreed to serve in this capacity. It's a non-paid position. They're putting their own time and effort into it, and I really do appreciate their diversity, their intelligence, their ability, and their putting in the time that they have to put in. And I just want to take a moment to congratulate and thank Otis Hackney for the awesome job he has done at South Philadelphia High School. 5 years ago, this was not the same place, and thank God he came and put us all together behind this school, and something we are all proud of here in South Philadelphia. Thank you. Go Southern. I want to thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate coming out in the rain. It's really not a pleasant evening to be out here. And I want to ask you a favor, and I know and I'm from South Philadelphia too, so I can say this. We could always have a meeting in South Philadelphia and wind up having a complaint session. It's very easy to do, and I've been to them before, and I'm sure between now and the time I leave office, we'll have them again. And I've just been saying recently that I wish I could stay mayor-elect forever, and not actually have to become it, because now then I'll get in trouble with people. But anyway, the point of the matter is, what we want to know is your vision for the city, where you want to see the city going in the next 4 years, the things that you think are important, really critically important, not just the pothole or the parking. We grant it, we have to deal with those issues, but where we want to see our education going in 4 years or 8 years, where we want to see our city's infrastructure going, where we want to see our tax structure going, where we want to see our education, not our education, but our job opportunities, our poverty level, all those things that are the big picture items that we're all dealing with. We'll have the day-to-day stuff that we need to do as a city government, but right now is the opportunity for you, and I'm going to sit down and listen to what you have to say, and we're going to listen to what you have to say. Now's your time to give us your vision for the next 4 years, and we're honored that you're going to share it with us. So thanks again for being here.
So thank you for your understanding and your cooperation in advance, and we are ready to start taking questions.
Hi, my name is Joyce. I live on South Reese Street. Congratulations. We have a house on South Reese Street that was a known drug house, and it was actually raided by the DEA about a year ago. Unfortunately, the house was never boarded up, and on November 9th, we had a terrible fire. I believe that was arson. Had that house been boarded up, maybe 4 of my neighbors would be in their homes for the holidays. And I just hope to see more action taken towards making sure that things like this don't happen again. For the protection of our fire company, which is amazing, the fire department, really unbelievable. Also, there has been police presence in Mifflin Park, and it's really helped, with the violence in Mifflin Park, and I hope to continue to see that. My neighborhood is wonderfully diverse, and there's so many great kids in my neighborhood, and some of them are imprisoned in their homes, so a stray bullet doesn't get them, and they deserve better than that.
Thank you.
My name is Dave Lipscomb. I'm from the southwest area of Philadelphia. And I'd like to thank you for doing the walking tour here with the citizens of Philadelphia. But the question I have basically is arbitration rules with police officers. Now, we have some fine police officers in Philadelphia who do a wonderful job each and every day. But there are some people who are not doing the job they're supposed to do. And the police chief fires them, and they come back to the arbitration rules. And I was wondering, during your administration, will you work with Harrisburg? I see Representative Dwight Evans right there. He's up there, and a couple senators that we have with the arbitration rules. Will you work in the next contract to work where the commissioner has the ability to fire, and there has to be some things that they can't come back? Because right now, I think at this point, in my opinion, it really puts the police officers on harm on a daily basis who are doing their job.
I mean, clearly we have an issue with community policing that we need to pay attention to and really fine-tune and do a better job in communicating with our community and the folks who are being policed and the people who are policing them. That is, you are correct, it is state law, and it will be a part of the contract negotiations coming up in the next round of negotiations. We can't change the contract without changing the state law, so it's got to go hand in hand. So we will have conversations both with our state legislators, our FOP, our police commissioner, to try to figure out what makes sense, because some of the stuff that's happened recently doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And people lose faith that things are transparent, that people's rights are being upheld, and we have a hard time. And you're right, it does make officers' life less safe and the job more dangerous when people don't trust each other. And we have a long way to go, but we are consistent in wanting to move forward to make a better situation. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Vincent Costello. I'm a recent student for behavioral health studies. One of my term papers was done on bilingual students. The research in bilingual students reported that those students did better in school than other students. My question is there a way for Philadelphia to come up with a program to start tutoring children in first grade through 12th grade once a week in the following language: Spanish, language, French, and sign language? I believe these children would gain a better, more skills with these languages, because we have Canada, which we trade with. We have Mexico, which we trade with. We need languages to help people. I'm an EMT. I have people in my ambulance I couldn't talk to. So plucking on a computer is not really communication. It's actually talking to people. I believe these students, after 12th grade, their scores, their employment levels will be higher. Thank you.
Hi, how you doing? I live in this neighborhood, so welcome to the neighborhood, but I consider myself a resident of Philadelphia as well as the world. The city and business community have come together to make smoking and secondhand smoke a real issue because of the health value, but the cigarette butts that get discarded in the streets errantly is a pox upon our city. And is there any reason why every establishment in this city isn't required to provide adequate ashtrays?
There's no reason why that should not be provided, but in the end, I mean, it's about us. Because when I go to meetings, people say, what are you going to do about the trash? And I stop them and say, well, what are we going to do? This is about all of us and the way we behave and the way we act. I mean, in my car, my personal vehicle, the back floor of the back seat is filled with trash because I won't throw anything out my window until I get to a gas station or a car wash and dispose of it properly. We're going to have a conversation with us, all of us, about how we treat our neighborhoods and how we treat our streets, from cigarette butts to larger items. And I mean, we intend to clean up the city a couple times a year in a major way. But once it's clean, it doesn't get dirty again from the sky. It gets dirty again from people who throw their stuff out their car windows and out their front steps. So we have to really have a real serious conversation with each other about how we treat our neighborhoods. We will continue. We're not going to complain about it and not clean it up. We're going to clean it up. But we have to keep it clean. And I do recognize the cigarette butt problem. But, I mean, we have trash everywhere, and it really is embarrassing, and we need to fix it. But we also need to keep it fixed long term. And we're committed to that.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tiffany White. I'm a resident of South Philadelphia and also a community activist, and I also work for Councilman Kenyatta Johnson. My question is the housing crisis. The housing crisis in the city of Philadelphia is huge. I get many constituents that call the office looking for housing. We don't have enough housing, and the shelters are full to capacity. What would you do about our housing crisis?
Again, it's what we're going to do with our CDCs and with our Housing Trust Fund to expand the reach of CDCs in our community so that when a neighborhood begins to gentrify, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, as long as there's enough housing stock affordable in the community for the long-term residents to remain and not be pushed out. And we've done a little bit of that when it comes to the AVI. Even though no one liked the AVI, the homestead really does have a factor in allowing long-term residents to get some relief, and also the gentrification freeze that your tax assessment can't go up more than 3 times in a gentrified neighborhood, and then you get the abatement like your new neighbors are getting. But CDCs, funding CDCs, and funding the Housing Trust Fund, I think are three ways of making sure that we have affordable housing in our communities and continue to make sure that when we have development, high-end development, we have some set-aside property, some set-aside units for people who are moderate income or low income.
Thank you. Next question.
Good evening, Mr. Hackney, Mr. Kenney. My name is Mika Outlaw.
I live in the Grace Ferry section. I'm a substitute teacher for the school district. My question is, being a sub, I've been to a lot of different schools, and I've seen the disparities between schools that are blocks apart from each other, and it's a shame. And my other thing is, my son is in kindergarten, and I live in Grace Ferry, and I literally had to send, for my son to go to a good school, he's in Center City. And I was just wishing or hoping that maybe at some point that schools could be where he doesn't have to go that far. Like, I get up at 5:30 in the morning with a 6-year-old to get him ready to get out of the house by 7:30. So, and I know this isn't something that you can do on your own, and it does take everybody, but just that there are a lot of disparities, and everybody does want a good education for their child, and you would like to be able to get it in your neighborhood.
So I'll comment on that briefly as the new chief education officer of the city. You all know that, or many of you, if you're engaged in the campaign, that we are working to create community schools in Philadelphia. And I know some people have many questions and concerns, and when we were in Cincinnati just a couple weeks ago, the biggest takeaway for me was when they talked about equity. And so what you're asking for is equity. And I tell folks all the time, everyone wants especially at the elementary school level, you want a school that you can walk to or that your child can walk to. So how do we create that in Philadelphia, that in every neighborhood that we have schools where children and parents feel safe and it's within walking distance and they can get a high quality education. And community schools is a piece of that, but also looking at educational models. So in partnership with the district or the schools that we partner to develop the community schools, that's the work that we're going to do moving forward, so that way you don't have to commute all the way to Center City to go to what you would determine to be a good school. We want to make sure that the schools in your community have the services that your children need, that families need, but also an educational model that will support their academic progress. Okay? Thank you.
Mayor-elect, earlier you touched on the fact that we all need to participate in the effort to clean up the city, and I agree with you. It's difficult when a lot of us have asked to have trash cans placed at the end of our blocks, and we're told that's not a possibility. It's a very walkable city, but without a place to throw the trash as you walk, it becomes an easy excuse for people to litter. How specifically can you work with the sanitation department to get receptacles more conveniently placed throughout the city?
Here's one of my little pet peeves about living in the city and sometimes living in South Philly. The wire baskets go out, and we try to collect them, cover them once or twice a week, and then people go out at night with their little packages because they don't want to put their trash in their house for a week, and they go out and they fill up the baskets so that they're overflowing, and it looks like a mess. And then when the baskets are overflowing, and then people think now it's a short dumping site, so in addition to the overflowing baskets, I can put a mattress there, I can put tires there, and it grows. If we could get a commitment from people in the community that it would not take their little plastic bag of garbage out at 9 o'clock at night and place it in the neighborhood trash can, we would have a better shot at keeping up with emptying those on a regular basis so they're not unsightly. And there are times on South Broad Street and in other neighborhoods where you ride down the street on a Monday morning or a Sunday night, and it looks like a dump site. And people have to cooperate with keeping their trash in their home during the week and then putting it to the curb on the right day, with the right time, without using the baskets by the bus stops and baskets on the corners for their own little personal trash receptacle. So if we could figure out a way to make that work, I think we could have those baskets everywhere. It's just, again, it's about people cooperating and using common sense and not being selfish about their own needs. And I know that's a criticism, but you know it, you've seen it. You've seen the results of that kind of little nighttime gifts that people leave in the basket. So we'll work on it, we promise. And the other issue is trying to get larger, those big bellies, making them bigger, having the redesigned one so you don't have to put your hand on the cruddy handle. You can use the foot pedal to open it up. So there are things we're doing and looking in from a design perspective that will make it better. But we're committed to trying to get that neighborhood trash can back.
Okay. Good evening. Magali Larson from West Philadelphia. I'm an activist, I guess, but I'm retired. Thank you, Mayor Kenney, for your promise to reinstitute sanctuary in Philadelphia. That's very important to me. But I just had a suggestion, because I know many people who work for the city, and I've known them for years, and I hear them talk. Will you have a hotline so that employees can make suggestions about how to improve the services, and will you take it seriously? That's very, very important to many people who are excellent workers for the city.
Let me tell you about something I think we've been missing with the city recently, and that is an interaction between management and labor that's not a dignified relationship. It's not a relationship of mutual respect. Every organization in the world, private sector, public sector, that's successful has a wonderful relationship between management and labor. That doesn't mean that labor gets everything given to them. It means that labor is respected for the work that they do. And I've told people this before. When someone says, oh, those city workers, they're a bunch of bums, I say, well, you try walking behind a trash truck for 6 days a week, and you see how that is. So we are going to have a dignified relationship. We're going to have a respectful relationship. We're going to make sure that the taxpayer is taken care of and is not fleeced. But we're also going to make sure that our workers are shown respect and dignity, and we listen to what they say. Because we have people working for the city for 20, 25, 30 years. They have some good ideas. There's things that they know, that they've seen, that they know works or doesn't work. We need to really collaborate with them and make them part of the process. And we can do that. That's not a hard thing to do. We've already started the process with our workforce, our unionized workforce. We have 4 major unions in the city, and we've been discussing those issues with them going forward to try to deal with the contract upcoming in June. But I know that the relationship between this administration and our workforce is going to be one of mutual respect and dignity, and we're going to work together to make our city better.
Okay, I'm from the 2800 block of South 10th Street, and I'm in the neighborhood where they're going to build a new casino now, and we just wondered if you would participate in making sure that all the promises they promised our neighborhood will come about.
I'm not an enemy of gaming, but I'm not necessarily a fan either. It's one of those things that happened to us because Harrisburg refuses to raise any kind of revenue which has a T word attached to it. So if anything's called a tax, it's bad. But if gaming is a tax on people too, it's a tax on the old and it's a tax on the poor. And those are the folks who are in the casinos playing sometimes when they can't afford to. But on the other hand, people were getting in buses and going to Atlantic City and doing the same thing. And it was determined by Harrisburg that it would be better if they did it here as opposed to doing it there. I recognize the imposition on the neighborhood. We had very little control over siting, but we do have control over making them live up to the promises that they made. I will tell you that Sugar House, for example, in the neighborhood where they're at, now that there's a track record, it's not a bad operation. I think that there's 1,100, 1,200 employees, maybe going as many as 1,600. They have health care, they have a decent pay, so that's the upside of it. The downside of it is it's an imposition. And with this, and again, I grew up here, and I understand the imposition of the sports complex. I understand the imposition of Xfinity. I understand, there's lots of impositions that we have been expected to take. And I know people over the years have fought them and tried to get the best deal. But I will tell you, between Mark Squilla, Councilman Kenyatta Johnson, ourselves, we will hold their feet to the fire and make sure that they do what they say they're going to do.
Good evening, Mr. Kenney, Mr. Hackney, and to your panel. My name is Lisa Haver. I'm a retired teacher. I'm a regular attendee of the School Reform Commission meetings, and if you've seen them in action, you know that they are, I will say, not responsive to people, don't answer questions, not transparent in the least. If you're there or you watch it, the SRC will go through pages and pages of resolutions and not deliberate on any of them, at least not in public. The mayor has 2 representatives on the SRC. The governor has 3. So I wanted to know, and I'm glad it's you that I'm speaking to. I'm a retired teacher. I'm glad that it's you up there that I'm speaking to right now. What can you do to communicate with your people on the SRC, and what do you think that you and the governor can do now that, you know, we have a Democratic governor, to make his people on the SRC more responsive and more answerable to the people, starting with just obeying the Sunshine Act? Thanks.
I agree with you. The interaction between the public and the SRC is really sad and is wanting in transparency and interaction. However, we have a really good governor now who really cares about public education, and those appointees are not his necessarily. There are terms that governor, for example, Bill Green was appointed by Governor Corbett. So he's going to run, his term will run, and as his term expires, the governor will have a chance to pick some different people, and I'm glad that he will. But he also said that he would consult with us to have some input as to who those folks are. And I think even though it won't be immediate, you will see a change. The issue is that people have said to us, well, just get rid of it. Well, you can make that argument, and it's a solid argument to make. However, the thing that I fear is if there's no SRC ever, then the legislature basically says, you know what, you wanted it, here it is, good luck, see you later. And we've done a really good job, not us, but our members of the legislature have done a really good job this time around with negotiating the budget, which will hopefully be resolved before the next budget's due, but will get resolved soon. And you will see some increases in funding for the school district, in issues relative to the school code with reimbursement on charters. I mean, we're making progress in Harrisburg. I do agree with you that you deserve more respect when you go to the SRC. My appointees will give you that respect, and the governor's new appointees, I know, will give you that respect. So I apologize for their lack of civility or whatever. So.
Good evening. I am Jerome Fordham, and my question is about small businesses. Mr. Kenney, I know Dwight Evans, and I know Andy Toy. I have a question. What do you have in place to help the small businesses get some of these contracts? At least get a piece of them.
We've made, we're going to make two appointments that are very special. One is Nolan Atkinson, who's a long-term, very well-respected attorney who is responsible for diversifying the Bar Association and diversifying his own large law firm. He is going to be, for the first time in city's history, the chief diversity officer of the city. His single job is to go, it's a big job, is to go through the entire government, both employees and contracts, to figure out why we don't spread the wealth the way we should be spreading the wealth around to every community in our city. That's the first side of it. Our commerce director that we've announced is Harold Epps, is a long-term business person, African-American man who's really done well in his business life and wants to do community service now, wants to do public service. He told me he was not taking this job if I was not going to concentrate on business development in neighborhoods, in business strips. And I will point to you a good example. East Passyunk Avenue, which is just right around the corner here, was always pretty much a strong business strip, but some of the owners were getting a little older and up in the years, and their kids didn't want to run the stores, and things were getting just a little frayed. Not rough, but frayed around the edges. And we got together with a whole group of folks that were involved in the neighborhood there, and what you see over there is because of the concentration and the investment that was made, which made that probably the number 2 or 3 food destination location in the country. We can do that in other neighborhoods in the city. And we've talked about Germantown and Shelton, 52nd and Market, areas of the city that have some base of good business, but needs some extra help to do a couple things. Allow people from the community to start businesses as entrepreneurs, create the old mom and pop situation where you have a store on the first floor and maybe 2 apartments on the second floor, which are affordable that people in the neighborhood could live in. So we have a model that we want to replicate. We have Harold Epps, who's the commerce director, who is committed to it, and we have Nolan Atkinson, who's committed to diversifying our government and our governmental contracts. And I think we'll have a good result at the end of 4 years. Thank you.
So, but hold on, just as a time check, we have about 30 minutes left, so just please, we're going to try our best to get as many questions in as possible. Next question.
Thanks. My name is Saif Fakadu. I live in Center City. I'm a recent transplant to the city. Grew up in South Jersey, so I've always loved Philly. It's cool to live here. I'm very optimistic about the city's future. Feel like best days lie ahead. But it felt like there have been several instances with missed opportunities and I think an acrimonious relationship between the mayor and City Hall, or the council, pardon, was to blame. I was wondering if Mayor-elect Kenney could discuss how to avoid those traps in the future and continue the rolling in the right direction.
Can you repeat the question?
Not the whole question.
Not the whole, just the, yes.
It's a little echoey up here.
Oh, if I was just wondering how he would ensure a good and fruitful relationship with City Council, not to say that we haven't had one.
That's an easy one. No, it's look, every city council member is independently elected. Whether they're elected at large or whether they're elected in a district, they run for office and get elected. They deserve the respect as an elected official. Every single council member that's in there, I know them all and work with them all, want to do good. They don't want to do bad, they want to do good. They have ideas that they want to put forward and have people listen to and respect and try to make happen. And unless you are helping them get the things that they want to get accomplished in their districts and in the city, there's not a real good relationship between them and the mayor's office on helping the stuff that the mayor wants to get done. So I look at city council and the mayor as a company. The mayor is the CEO of the company, and the city council are the board of directors. And the board of directors has a chairman, and the chairman is the president of city council. And any company that doesn't cooperate or work together with the chairman of the board, the members of the board, and the CEO is going to go out of business because they can't function. Darryl Clark is a friend. He is a smart person, he's a good person, and he wants what's good. We've just traveled out to Cincinnati to look at community schools together. We didn't go separately. We went out in the same plane, we went in the same van, and we went to the school and we learned together. And I work and talk to city council members every day. You have really terrific city council members in South Philly, both with Kenyatta and with Mark Squilla. I mean, we will work together, and I've seen the model work. And the model that worked was back in the day when Ed Rendell was mayor and John Street was council president. They got stuff accomplished because they worked together with each other. You can't dictate things. You can't tell people what to do. You have to get consensus. And if anybody plays sports, I like to give this sports analogy. A good mayor is like a good point guard in basketball. The point guard knows the offense, runs the offense, kind of calls the plays, but makes all the other players on the team look good, and the team wins. If you want to be a singles tennis player and be mayor and stand at center court and be the focus of attention, you're not going to get anything accomplished with your council. So that's my approach, and I think it's going to work. And there'll be times, I'm sure, that I don't want to do something, but I'll do it because I want to keep us all together. And I think that's really, really important. And I think the sale of the gasworks is a perfect example. Not the sale of the gasworks is a perfect example of really dysfunction in communications. We need to communicate. We need to talk to each other.
My name is Karen Collins, and I live in the Belmont area of the city. I'm a member of the Women's Community Revitalization Project, and I'm here tonight with the Philadelphia Coalition for Affordable Communities. Philadelphia has 40,000 vacant lots and growing. Our coalition advocated for a land bank to fix this problem. The land bank was created, but still most of the development on the vacant land has been going towards market rate housing. We want to make sure the land bank works and land for affordable housing is being prioritized. How will you make sure land goes into the land bank and comes back out for affordable housing and thus doesn't go to the highest bidder?
I think that's a very legitimate and important question in a city that has a 26% poverty rate. We have people in abject poverty who are really in need. And while I like all the expensive development that goes on across the city, we still have folks who are in need of housing at the lower level and at the affordable level. I think, I'll reiterate again what I think is important, and that's CDCs being strong. And when we don't have a CDC in the neighborhood, I think we need to create one and make sure that it's strong. I think that the Housing Trust Fund needs to be improved and increased in capacity to make sure that people who are having difficulty staying in their home because of heater problems, roof problems, window problems, can get those things fixed so they can stay in their home and not be homeless or have to live with somebody else. And I also think that when it comes to development in the city, we need to set aside some part of that development for affordable or low-income housing, because I think that's really the way to drive it. And I think if we all do that together, not just one, there's not one answer to this problem. It's paying attention to each neighborhood and each neighborhood's needs and trying to address that. Now, the land bank, I like the land bank, but one of the criticisms of the land bank is the council member has to sign off on it. The way you deal with that is you work with that council member directly, you get them up to speed, you get them knowledgeable of what you want to do, and you can move forward. But I agree with you, that is something we absolutely need to address, and it's not been addressed to date.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es María Hernández y vengo de la organización de Juntos. Mi pregunta es, todos queremos la mejor educación para nuestros hijos, entonces, si no van a reabrir las escuelas, que den más recursos para que agranden o les den mejor educación, porque no es justo que tengan en un salón más de 30 alumnos por un solo maestro.
So she said that, yes, she's asking why we're not investing more resources into our local schools because we have a lot of schools with more than 30 students in one classroom, and she wants to know what we're going to do to invest more in these schools.
First of all, let me point out that Steve Preston is a member of our campaign committee and will be a member of our administration, and he's bilingual. So the bilingual question, we at least have one for sure, I know that.
Well, when it comes to addressing school size, it's just working with the school district at every level to support them in terms of, first, it's getting fair funding at the state level. So it's going to take a joint effort between the school district and the city to make sure that schools are funded adequately, so that way we can work to decrease class size, but also making sure that the resources and supports are in school if they are a little overcrowded, but we also provide supports for students. And once again, that speaks back to the community school model in terms of making sure students feel not only are there high expectations in the school, but also high supports. So that way the students and families feel supported, that they can be academically challenged and be much more successful.
One other thing too, you know, the issue of community schools are important because let me tell you what it really does. And I heard this story when we were in Cincinnati. There's a young student there who has diabetes, and he needs to get his medication. And the school, if the school doesn't have a nurse, which many of our schools do not, then that child has to go home. Mom has to make an appointment with the doctor to take their child to get the diabetes medicine or administer herself. She might not have a car. She might have to take off work in order to take her kid to the doctor. If we have those services on site, if we have eye services, dental services, and all those things on site, and a nurse, the child can stay in the classroom, can stay in the school, go to the nurse, get what they need, and go back to class. And I think, and what the teachers have told us is that the thing that they like about it is that they're no longer nurses, nutritionists, dietitians, psychologists, they're teachers. If we can give them, if we can provide the services that the teachers are being forced to give out now, they can spend more time teaching and less time being all those other things. So, we say the district doesn't have enough money to do this. Okay, we say fine. We're going to work on Harrisburg to get the money we need, but we're not going to wring our hands and throw our hands up in the air. We're going to go out and get those services and bring them into the schools. And I will tell you, the thing that I learned out there, most of the children that we will service are Medicaid eligible, which means it's not costing the district anything. Medicaid reimburses the organizations that provide those services, or the Affordable Care Act. We sign them up, and they get those services paid for. And it's not coming out of the school district budget. So that's what community schools means to me, and that's why I'm so excited about entering into that.
Hello, my name is Zakira. Do you want me to say? And my question is, I want to have more schools that are more schools in Center City where hard of hearing and deaf people can be mainstreamed, because sometimes it's just one deaf person in a hearing school and they feel isolated. We need like a public setup where they can all mainstream together and maybe hang out with friends after school programs, tutoring, it doesn't matter. They all need to be together and be in communion with each other. It's not right for a deaf child to be the only deaf child in a hearing school.
I agree with that more than you ever know. So we are going to, that's something that we can look at. I know that we are looking at addressing different models for schools and supporting the school district in doing that. And if that is something that a community is asking for, we will look to see if we can address that. I can't speak on behalf of the district, but I can speak on behalf of the mayor's office that we would lend some resources and support to make that happen. I think that's very doable, actually. I'm sorry, I hope I don't get in trouble, but I think that's doable.
Yeah, many of the, my name's Kevin, I live in the Passyunk Avenue area. Many of the ideas that people brought up tonight cost something. I was impacted when the taxes of my condo, went up, 10 or 15 times a few years ago. What other forms of revenue do you anticipate bringing into the city? For example, with the tax abatements, must we still continue to have them throughout the city? Can they be concentrated in certain areas to help those areas sort of flip over?
How long did you live in your condo?
Not long enough to qualify for the abatement.
You didn't qualify for the abatement?
No, I didn't qualify.
Look, the abatements are a hard discussion because it is seemingly innately unfair. And I don't disagree with the perception of someone who didn't get an abatement, why it's unfair. But I will tell you that the amount of development that we've experienced in the past 15 years would have never happened without it. And it's sad, but it's true. What we're looking to do now is looking at the land that the abated property is built on, because right now we're not capturing the full value of the abated of the land. So the way the abatement works is you pay the real estate taxes for the land, you build the building, and then you're forgiven those taxes for 10 years. We're only capturing about 6% of the abated land value. On average, in other places that do abatements, it's about 20%. So we're looking for a way to figure out a way to get the assessment of the land up. And the other issue, frankly, and this is something that people don't understand, if your house was undervalued for a long, long time, you were not paying what you should have been paying based on the value of your house. So if you go from a $50,000 assessment to a $300,000 assessment, that means the period of time you were living with a $50,000 assessment, you weren't paying the value of the property, and that's what actual value was. Now, it's hard to absorb all that in 1 year, and that's why we put in the gentrification protections for people who are experiencing assessments 3 times what they were used to, and also put in the homestead. So look, taxes are a really difficult thing, and no one wants to pay them, and I get it, because I pay them too, and I understand. And I realize the assessments, the tax abatements are a difficult conversation, but we can have that conversation about whether or not in certain areas they've worn out their use, and in other areas, do they make sense to drive development? But we have to do that through analysis, and I do appreciate you bringing it to our attention.
Good evening, Mr. Kenney. My name is Moses Cotton, and I'm in the South Philadelphia area, 17th District. I'm a Town Watch and Safe Corridors volunteer. When Mayor Street implemented the Safe Streets program, this is an offset, I believe, from that. And what we do, we guide the children in the mornings and afternoons when they go to school and come back. But my question to you is, will you be helping us fund to get more identity? We have a little reflective vest, and we go around the community, that's it. We don't have any hats or jackets or flashlights for night, even. And it's quite a few of us, and we just asking for community-involved groups. Will you be aiding us in any way? Thank you.
If it's a matter of providing reflective vests or getting some of these companies to provide some flashlights and those things are doable, and we'd be happy to take a look at the request that you're making. Are you in the 17th District? Yes. So you have a 17th District PDAC? Yes. All right, so I think the PDAC request ought to come either through the district council person or directly to us, and we'll try to fulfill that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, good evening. My name is Victoria Duval. My question is, will the LOOP program be extended so that we will be able to afford to stay in our homes?
LOOP? Oh, yeah.
Oh, LOOP, yes.
Here's the problem with LOOP, and this is something that we fought with the administration over. We wanted them to put the LOOP applications in the tax bill. but they don't want to do that. And I know that Councilman Squilla, for example, had to wind up printing his own loop applications in order to mail them out himself, as opposed to putting them in the real estate tax bill. So we want to get as many people on loop as possible. And loop will stay. Loop is not going anywhere. Because loop, you know what loop is? Loop is your 10-year tax abatement that you didn't get, and now you're getting it. Because if your house has gentrified that much, now you're eligible for loop, you're going to get that 10-year relief, which you should have, which is fair to you as a long-term resident. Loop's going nowhere. We funded loop into the future, and it's not leaving.
Bishop Ethan Thornton. My question is this. We've had in this city over 252 homicides, and it doesn't seem to be no political will to deal with the crisis that's proliferated in our city. About a month ago, in my area, when I live in South Philadelphia, I heard about 8 gunshots in my rear on 23rd and Christian. A young black man was murdered. There were a group of young boys that hung out in that area, and I had spoken to the captain about that group of boys that were hanging out in that area, and nobody did anything. It wasn't until that young man was murdered that they cleaned that area. My question is, I hope that this administration would invest monies in the communities to help them to police themselves, because we have law enforcement that's doing a great job. But I believe that the best way for community to move forward is to police itself, but yet it needs some support in order to do it.
Yeah, Bishop, I totally agree with you. I think one loss of life, one loss of young life is tragic in itself, just one, not let alone 252. And we're going to do our best to keep those numbers down. We're swimming upstream in Harrisburg when it comes to guns. So, I mean, that's a problem. I mean, the biggest holiday in the state of Pennsylvania was just this past Monday. It was the opening day of deer season. Everybody's off, everybody's shooting something. I mean, so people in the rest of the state don't view the problems that we view because it's carnage in our streets and they don't see it. I think this focused deterrence has been a help in the 17th district when it comes to the reduction in some of the shootings, not all of them. We have a thing called Shot Spotter, which we're looking to implement, where we can have real-time response to where the shots are coming from so we can focus on it and try to get those folks rounded up as soon as possible. And I think the focused deterrence, again, with the DA's office, probation, parole, and the police have been a help, and we'd like to expand that citywide. And I will tell you that, as you know, when you live in a neighborhood that's really having some tough times, 99.9% of the people are all good people. They're the ones that are held hostage. And there's a small group of people that's holding them hostage. So focusing our attention on that group and making sure that if they want to act as a gang, as a group, that they're treated that way as a group. So we want to make sure that we respond to those things as quickly as possible and try to get those guns out of those young men's hands. But the other thing they need to go to work. They need training, and they need direction to go to work. Because if you have a job and you come home at night and you're too tired to go out and do some nonsense. Well, you want to have dinner and go to bed and get up and work the next day. And that is one of the things we are committed to when it comes to vocational training and training for the trades, the building trades. For a long time it's been hard for people to access the opportunities in those trades, and those trades are, $35, $40 an hour jobs. The other area we're going to invest in with the state is down on our waterfront, because we can expand our container port to almost double the size we have now. Those, again, are $35, $40 an hour jobs. They're jobs that people can do without an education, even though we'd like everyone to be as educated as possible. But you can make a living and raise a family working down a waterfront with containers, as opposed to standing on a corner and being the next statistic.
Hi, I'm Joan Kozlov from 12th and Shunk, and I'd just like to congratulate you for having transparency at the very start of your term. I hope it continues for the whole term. My concerns, I have two main concerns. One is about the schools. I'm really excited that Philadelphia is talking about community schools, because I can remember when my own children went to schools and it was just so great, and so many more people graduated. I think we only have, 61% or something graduating in Philadelphia? That's terrible. It pains me to have that happen. So I hope, and I thought charter schools were so great when they first started, you know, ideas and creativity, but the money follows the students. And people think they're going to get a better deal out of a charter school, and it isn't true. It's tearing apart. It's tearing apart public education. It's privatizing public education. And the teachers are not the enemy. Let's face it. If fast food workers had I'm halfway through. Fast food workers had unions, they wouldn't have to be working for $15, which is not a living wage. My second thing is, we're all coming from immigrants somewhere down the line. I hope that our city, and I'll work on this if you tell me how to do this, will follow Chicago's lead, and that we will be a sanctuary city for refugees escaping terrorism, war, the Syrians and the Iraqis. Only 10,000 we're letting in this country. It should be 100,000.
Look.
Yes, it should. France is having 30,000 refugees come to their country after they were bombed.
I hear you. Listen, we can't have a discussion about immigration in our city as it relates to the national presidential debate. That's a crazy discussion. I mean, I don't know what they're talking about half the time. I just really don't. All I know is this. If there's a really bad person that we arrest, we're going to turn that bad person over. But the problem is that ICE for 10 or 15 years now has been running roughshod over immigrant communities in our city to the point where they're scared to death to talk to our own police. And that's wrong. So I'm not saying we're going to release murderers and criminals. We're not. We would never do that. But that kid on his bicycle going from his lawn care job to his restaurant job is not bothering anybody. He just wants to go to work. And I will tell you from my own history in this country, not me personally, but generationally, all right, we, the Irish, were starved out of our country. It wasn't a famine. There was plenty of food there. They just got shipped out and sold, and we had nothing left. 2 million starved and 2 million emigrated. And when we got here, we didn't have papers. We didn't go through Ellis Island. We crawled off the boat, off the coffin ship where people didn't survive, that didn't make the passage. Nobody wanted us here. Go back where you came from. No Irish need apply. We have a history of doing this to every group that's come here. WOP, it was a terrible slur growing up in my neighborhood. My parents would never let me say that word. You know what it means? Without papers. Without papers. It means that certain other people came here without papers too. Now, if we had an intelligent immigration policy nationally, we wouldn't be having this discussion. If people didn't have to wait 10 years to get to America and then wait 8 more years for the family to get here, we wouldn't be having this discussion. But people are suffering, and I hear you. I really do. And I don't think we should open our borders to anyone, but we should be more understanding and more rational when it comes to who lives in our city. Because I will tell you, if you look around our neighborhood in South Philly, people are starting businesses with Spanish names with Spanish names on it. They're the same people, the same stores that the Italian merchants were in before the Mexican merchants got there. And if we don't understand that as a city, I'm not talking about Donald Trump and all that nonsense. I'm talking about us as Philadelphians. Then we're never going to move forward. And I think that that's really what we need to do. And I don't want to have an immigration debate nationally. I'm not building a wall around Philadelphia. We're not doing that. But we can be rational and compassionate at the same time. And all I want people to do is understand their own history in this country. Understand that when they came here, they weren't welcomed here either. And we can look at the experience of the African slaves who were drugged here in chains. They didn't want to be, they were drugged here, and this country grew off their backs, off the fruit of their labor, which was unpaid. We're where we are today partly because of that. So I think that if we just take a step back, take a deep breath, look at each other's history, and understand that none of us deserve to be here, but we all wound up here some way. And I think we should understand and appreciate that.
Okay, time is running short. So we have time for 2 more questions or statements.
Good evening. My name is Kat Richter, and I'm a homeowner in South Philly. I'm also the artistic director of a nonprofit dance company called the Lady Hoofers. And I just wanted to take a moment to share with the new administration what I think makes this city great, and that is its arts. Philly has such an inferiority complex to New York in many cases, but we have world-class dance companies, theaters, museums, and so on. And we've heard about a lot of problems tonight that are not going to be easy solutions, whether it's racism, the economy, education, et cetera. But I just wanted to point out how integral the arts have been in trying to bridge these gaps in the meantime. My company offers a free residency program at Moffett Elementary in North Philly, and there are plenty of other companies that do the same. Mayor Nutter has been very supportive, although there have, of course, been funding cuts. We enjoyed the City Hall Presents program, getting to perform at City Hall, as many other companies did. And I hope that the new administration will continue to put energy behind all of these programs that make our city great. Thank you.
Thank you. And let me just piggyback on that just for a moment to give an example of how the arts and schools can work. In this very auditorium this morning, I have a quintet from Curtis Institute that rehearse here. This is where they practice every single week and work with students. And I also have an intern here for the full school year working to develop a choir. And these are students from Curtis Institute that we worked to develop a partnership with so that way students would be exposed to the arts. So the arts do serve an important part in terms of what we do here at South Philadelphia High School and what we are going to work to do wider across the city. Last question, yes.
Good evening, my name is Nakia Carr. I had the privilege of working with Mr. Otis Hackney, and I think one of the effective things when working with the school district of Philadelphia, we were on the ground. So I wanted to know, I hear you guys talking about community and schools. How can we get people on the ground bringing these students back in? Because education is direct correlation to crime. So we have children out here murdering people because they're uneducated. So how does the community and school model is going to affect actually having people on the ground, bringing parents into the schools, bringing these truant children back into the schools? How does that work with community and schools?
The biggest piece with, or one of the largest pieces with community schools is getting that actual input from the people within the community. We're going to be working to develop that site-based leadership component so that way people, parents, students, stakeholders, key stakeholders have input in terms of the programs that take place in schools. And if, you know, South Philly, I know people try to look at us as a model for a community school and looking at how we've been able to change the climate and culture. You know, the question that was raised earlier about graduation rates, when I first got here, we were in the 20s, like upper 20%. We're almost at 70% graduation rate. And another key indicator is before during high school application process, we would barely get about 200 students applying to South Philly. This year, we have over 500 students applying. And that is because students get here and they feel that they feel encouraged, they feel supported. And that's because of what the teachers are doing in the classroom, because I've had students that transferred from some other schools and they said they like it here because they feel like the teachers here support them, but also how we support students outside of the classroom with about 20 different providers that we work with here on a daily basis. So community schools, if they're implemented properly, with the right input from the right people, and then obviously with the right leadership and support, it can definitely work to improve a school, but also increase enrollment and increase the academic outcomes for our children. So it's definitely a model that can work in the way that we're going to do it in Philadelphia. We're going to do it better than everybody else. We're going to definitely do it better than everybody else. Yes.
We just wanted to, that was the last question, but I could not let our young lady here who's so dedicated to our Philadelphia flag not have an opportunity to finish this up. She has just been the greatest supporter of our flag and the symbol of our flag, and we just wanted to give her a chance to just say hello.
Hello, I cry when I'm happy, so please excuse that. We're just so lucky to have Mayor Jim Kenney stepping into office. And today I'm just here to ask him, our priority is to have Mayor Kenney and his team be the Philly flag mayor, finally, at long last. Do you know there's a Philly flag? Most people don't. Deacon here didn't know. You have a Philadelphia civic flag. Woohoo! And not only that, it has your Philly colors, azure, blue, and gold and yellow. We found out that it is the first city flag in America, and I'm saving the best for last. The message on this Philly flag is Philadelphia Manetto. Philadelphia is Greek for brotherly love. People go, wow, I didn't know that. Manetto is Latin for to continue. So on the bottom of it is Philadelphia Manetto. Let brotherly love continue. That's what, and my vision is by 2020, they're going to have a committee, 2020 committee. And the vision is by 2020, this flag is flying at every school. You're all going to live up to the motto, let brotherly love continue through peace, hope, justice, and prosperity that is on your Philly flag. And we're going to have a Philly flag curriculum in the schools. And it goes on and on.
And that's the way to end the South Philly Town Hall. Good night, thank you.